Hello guys, this is Charlie. Today I will be teaching you how to use a bait deck in Clash Royale. I will go over all of the pro techniques and strategies with tips about how to use bait. You will become a pro bait player and we're starting right now. And yes, this video is free to play friendly. Here is the optimal example of bait that you'd want to have. The first card that you'd want in a bait deck would obviously be a goblin barrel because that will be your win condition. The next card that you'd want would be a medium cost mini tank. This can be a knight ice golem or valkyrie, though I'd not prefer valkyrie because it got nerfed and is too expensive. Knight would be the optimal choice. The reason why you'd want a mini tank is because you want a troop to protect your goblin barrel. With a knight protecting your goblin barrel, the tower would shoot at the knight instead of the goblin barrel protecting the goblins. The next two cards that you'd want would be cards that are weak against the log. These cards are used to bait away the log from your opponent so he would not have log to counter your barrel. Always have a swarm card like goblin gang or skeleton army. And use a princess or dart goblin for baiting log. The next card should be something that does a lot of damage in case your opponent has large tanks, preferable buildings like Tesla or Inferno Tower. Inferno Tower is really good at bait because it can also be used to bait zap from your enemy. The next card should be something that is good at defending small to medium enemy troops like Rocket or Fireball. Just use Rocket because it's way easier. It can counter everything from elite barbarians to anything smaller. It also helps you to take down the tower if you are desperate for damage. The seventh card should be a small spell that counters small troops, like log or zap. The last card should be a cycle card that can provide some good value, like ice spirit, fire spirits or goblins. A cycle card is a 1 or 2 elixir card that allows you to cycle your deck faster. Okay, let's begin. You should place your barrel when your opponent doesn't have any of these cards in his rotation. The purpose of a bait deck is to place a goblin barrel when your opponent doesn't have a spell that counters goblin barrel in his rotation, by using other cards to bait it. Cards that counter goblin barrel are log, arrows, and barbarian barrel. Zap also counters barrel but only if it is at least one level higher than the barrel. If it is the same level as the barrel or lower level, then don't worry about zap, like if you have a level 9 goblin barrel you don't have to worry about that in tournaments. The reason why you need a mini tank is because if your opponent zaps your barrel, the goblins can still do massive damage. Remember, you do not know your opponent's deck until he has revealed all of his cards. Always keep track of your opponent's card rotation of which cards are not in his hand at that moment. Once your opponent has revealed a goblin barrel counter, it is safe to assume that your opponent does not have another goblin barrel counter, so it is safe to throw a goblin barrel down to do massive damage, but make sure that your opponent's goblin barrel counters are out of hand. Or if your opponent has played all 8 of his cards, you can throw a goblin barrel if you know your opponent doesn't have a counter. Try using your bait cards on defense to force your opponent to play his arrows or log. And always play the weaker defensive card first if you have to. For example, if your opponent has a lumberjack, then use a dart goblin. An ice spirit is a pretty good card for freezing the enemy troop. Your opponent most likely will use a spell to take down your dart goblin, then you can use your goblin gang to kill the mini P.E.K.K.A. You should use your bait cards on defense so that on offense your opponent would not be able to counter your barrel. Here is a tip. If you counter an enemy troop with your mini tank, immediately place a swarm card on the other lane to bait out their log, then place a goblin barrel and place it so that the barrel lands once the mini tank is in range of the tower. Your opponent would not have a counter to the barrel and it would do massive damage. Don't try to use your swarms on offense because your opponent might be smart and counter it with a troop. Never place 2 cards weak to log on the same lane because your opponent would be able to counter both of them with a single log. This video is mainly talking about countering the log because it is one of the most used cards in the game. If your opponent has a huge tank, Inferno Tower will be really useful because it will melt the enemy tank. If your opponent has zap, you can place a goblin gang or skeleton army away from the Inferno Tower, so your opponent will have to zap either the tower or the swarm but cannot zap both, so one of them will take down the tank. If your Inferno Tower still has a lot of hit points after the defense, you can place a princess or dart goblin to get some damage on the enemy tower. The Inferno Tower would melt the troop afterward. When you throw in a goblin barrel, usually you should throw it in the center so your opponent has to counter it from all sides. However, you can try to get creative. Once you baited your opponent's log, if your opponent counters your goblin barrel using skeleton army, then for the next time you place a barrel, place the barrel in front of the tower because skeleton army users usually place an army behind the tower. Then you can zap the skeletons, or if you use log then you can place a prediction log. This is if you baited away your opponent's log. Another favorite strategy I like is to place my barrel in the corner, not all the way in the corner because your opponent might be able to see it's in the corner by seeing how the barrel is so high. Place your barrel about 2 tiles away from the tower. Because most people place the log before seeing the barrel and their log would be a waste. In the same game, your opponent might think that you will place another barrel in the corner, so he will wait for the barrel to land before placing a log. Then just place your barrel in the center of the tower so they will each get 1 stab onto the tower, since your opponent will wait for the barrel to land first before placing the log, and it takes 1 second for the log to deploy. In that same game, keep switching it up from corner plays to tower plays and your opponent will never be able to guess where you will place your goblin barrel. Same thing goes with arrows. If your opponent plays a golem in the very back, your opponent is building up elixir for a very strong push that may be hard to counter. So rush the other lane with a tank and a barrel, or a tank and a swarm. This way your opponent will have to counter the rush attack and your opponent will have to waste the troops intended to support the golem to defend the attack instead. This way, you can counter the lone golem easily with an inferno tower or dragon. Always place a princess on the opposite lane of the enemy troop when defending, and you can place your swarm on the other lane. Once your opponent uses his log or arrows, don't just send in a barrel, send in a knight or ice spirit combined with a barrel. Also, you should also try to make positive elixir trades and don't waste elixir. Try countering enemy troops with less elixir than how much elixir you spent. If you have a troop that is still alive after defending, do not support the troop if it is weak to log, because your opponent could get a lot of log value from it. If your opponent has a lot of troops, a single rocket can counter most of them except for big tanks, which can be countered with an inferno tower. Also, make sure you know exactly how much damage your rocket does. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching. You are now better at Clash Royale than you were before watching. Be sure to share this video on your social media or with your friends to make your friends better at this game as well. Be sure to tell all your friends that play this game to watch this video too. Please subscribe and hit the like button. It only takes you a few seconds and costs you nothing. Subscribe for more content that will help make you better at this game. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. And leave a comment telling me your favorite tip from the video. I have an account that is level 1 in Legendary Arena with 3,800 trophies. Be sure to click on one of these videos to see gameplay of my level 1 account. Peace out.